And good morning, welcome to the broadcast. 079-1478990 is the number, the hashtag on Twitter. New Day KE, the short SMS code is 40920. Wakili Philip Mwangale is an advocate of the High Court, commentator on social political development. Thank you, Wakili, your time is appreciated.
Thank you.
Victor Marende, anthropologist and ODM party member. Happy New Year, Victor.
Happy New Year.
Thank you for coming. Alenga Trostar will be joining us shortly. I see he's being mic'd up. And here is how the Daily Nation covered events of the day this week, and here's what's coming up. The DP yesterday defended President Uhuru Kenyatta over ODM leader Raila Odinga's attacks, and in a fresh twist, the DP, who has lately been attacking the president, aggressively defended his boss yesterday, outlining the Jubilee Party's administration since 2013. And also in the same length and breath, he was in Waithaka Ward in the Dagoretti South constituency, where he was hosted by the area member of parliament John Kiaria, and here is what the deputy president yesterday said after the church service.
Wewe wacha kudharau Uhuru Kenyatta, unakuja kumzungumzia kwa rally. Kama uko na shida na performance ya serikali ya Jubilee, tafuta Uhuru Kenyatta kwa simu ama umtembelee ofisini, umwambie kwamba iko shida na performance ya serikali ya Jubilee. Wewe unasema Uhuru Kenyatta ni ndugu yako, mbona unakuja kumuanika barabarani? Performance ya serikali ya Uhuru na Ruto haiwezi kulinganishwa na ile miaka yote wewe umekuwa serikalini. It cannot match. You have nothing to show except ile mambo tu ya kupiganisha watu na kusunguka na fitina na mambo ambayo ni ya bure. Mtu wasiwatishe ati mambo ya hasla ni ya kupiganisha watu. Mimi nataka niwaambie hawa watu tumeshawashinda na akili.
Good morning, gentlemen. Alenga, good morning to
you.
Thank you for gracing us here on the broadcast. Wakili Philip Mwangale, may I start with you kindly? And hearing the Deputy President William Ruto yesterday defending the President and saying that our pledges were diverted because of you, the ODM party leader Raila Odinga, he meant coming to government, courtesy of the handshake. Therefore, we had shelved what we promised Kenyans in 2017. On one end, it's Odinga saying that the government has failed on the pledges. On the other, the DP said, we have failed and it's because of you. It makes the president the punching bag, isn't it?
Thank you for having me. First, what the DP is defending is not the president. He's defending himself. Because the people who are criticizing the track record of Uhuru Kenyatta, and I must opine that I do not think he even has a track record, but what they are criticizing in terms of his performance is the President Uhuru Kenyatta together with DP William Ruto. So when he is appearing to defend the president, he is really defending himself, because when we look at the performance of this government, we are not just looking at one individual, the president. We are looking at two individuals who had the same political following, who had the same political capital, who came to Kenyans and told us they're going to do certain things for this country. And they have not done a large number of those things. So when we are criticizing the Jubilee government, both of them have to carry the blame. And one of the things that is strange to me is the fact that DP William Ruto is now saying that Raila Odinga is to blame for them not doing the work that they were supposed to do. Yet initially he insisted. He was all over telling us that Raila Odinga has no power. He's not in government. He's not making decisions. It looks like it's just right now that he's now coming to his senses, discovering that Raila Odinga had that much power. But again, looking at it critically, Uhuru was derailed. Whether the derailment was due to the handshake or not, he was derailed. It might have been a self-derailment. But he started concentrating on other things other than development. He started concentrating on other things right from the start. It was not just during the handshake. During their first term, they didn't concentrate on what they promised to do. In as much as their manifesto was not a Suomotu manifesto, it didn't come from themselves. It came from a company somewhere. But they immediately hit the road running, looting. I think that must come out clear.
Okay.
They can't blame anyone for this. They can't blame Raila Odinga for this. They can't blame anyone whom they have associated with. It was upon them to make sure that whatever they had promised Kenyans was actualized.
Okay. And then what do you think, before I come to Victor Marende, will be the response of the president? Because now we hear from the ODM party leader Raila Odinga, who castigates the government for failing on the pledges. And then we have the Deputy President William Ruto saying that it's because of you, Mr. Odinga, the reason as to why the government has failed on the pledges it made in 2017. What will be the likely response of the president?
First, the president is being pushed into a corner. One, because he has appeared to punish his deputy. And right now, it appears that the person he was punishing is the one who is protecting him. So those are added points on William Ruto's side. However, I remember mentioning on this show when I made mention to the song that was a theme song of what was this movie in South Africa? I'm forgetting the name. But while that song is sung as "Freedom is Coming Tomorrow," I mentioned that for Raila Odinga, that song where freedom appears, it is replaced with betrayal. And I mentioned that betrayal is coming, and it might not be coming in the next few weeks, but it sure is coming. Okay. And the betrayal will come from the president's side. Okay, and that more or less is a painter of the unease in Victor's party, and I come to you on that note, Victor. The ODM party leader Raila Odinga is very clear, but he's not clear in terms of the specifics in pointing out that the president's government has failed. He seems to be pointing out the Deputy President William Ruto, and the DP William Ruto is the principal assistant to the president. In a nutshell, is the ODM party leader Raila Odinga saying that, Mr. President, you have failed?
You know, first of all, I would want to pick it from where you asked the first question, that the Prime Minister is critiquing the government right now. Now, he is not. And I would wish to state that, according to me, it is not criticism. He is simply stating what has happened. Now, in his stating what has happened, the Prime Minister is giving a comparison of what is happening now in the political scenario and what happened then when we did campaigns in 2013 and 2017. Now, he is tagging along and asking the Deputy President that today you are here telling us about the so-called hustlers. You are telling us about the wheelbarrows, you are telling us about Mama Mboga. Yet, it is the same Mama Mboga, it is the same young man you would wish to give a wheelbarrow that you told you would give 1 million jobs plus in 2013. Where are the jobs? It is the same Mama Mboga that you told in 2013 that you would boost their businesses in 2013 and 2017. How did it happen that you didn't boost their businesses? These are pertinent questions that any Kenyan must ask. It is only saddening that when such questions are asked, then we play politics with such critical questions. In developed countries outside, such are pertinent questions that require well-organized and thoughtful answers. Not the kind of noise that I hear the Deputy President making. Now, on to whether the president will answer or not. Now, he is very clear. The president, whenever he has spoken, has always stood to state what he has done. And I really don't wish that he shies away from this discussion. To be right and to be judged rightly by history, I hope that he will come out and tell Kenyans that in the 8 and 10 years that I've worked, this is what I did. And it is so deceitful for the Deputy President to lay blame on the handshake. This is the Adam and Eve scenario in the Garden of Eden. When Adam ate the apple and it was nice to him and he enjoyed the fruit. But then when caught, he said, it is the woman you gave me who gave me this bad and evil fruit. So we have to accept that there is a point and they are what led to this current handshake.
Then the handshake was that. To answer my question, is the ODM party leader Raila Odinga then faulting the government for failures on the pledges it made?
Definitely, we are telling the government in private and in public, that Kenyans require services, and it is because of services that leaders are elected into offices.
Okay, Alenga Trustad, isn't it appalling and a concern as many Kenyans remain displeased will become to the poll about what Kenyans are concerned about at the height of the pandemic as the country continues to navigate the choppy coronavirus waters? I just want to compare two statements by the Deputy President William Ruto. And he said last week, you came, he meant the ODM party leader, and changed the government's priorities from the Big Four agenda to alternative ones like the Building Bridges initiative. Now, after you have failed miserably, you want to run away. That was the DP William Ruto last week. And on Sunday yesterday, he said, I heard the other day Raila claimed that the government of President Uhuru Kenyatta and I has not delivered. I want to tell him that the Jubilee government has done 750 kilometers of standard gauge railway from Mombasa to Naivasha, 7,500 kilometers of tarmac road, connected 5 million Kenyans to the national grid, built 140 new technical colleges, which have now admitted up to 400,000 from 90,000 when he came to government, and we have upped the National Hospital Insurance Fund, NHIF subscription from 3 million to 7 million. He, within the same week, said we failed as a government, and it's you the reason. And here he's talking about what appears to be a flawed achievement by the government. Isn't it this double standard and the pure political sort of double standard from the political establishment, to be specific, the DP William Ruto?
First and foremost, Ayub, I understand, I learned through press that the Deputy President actually holds a PhD. So I think that should, you know, and then it's not a laughing matter, folks, because if he cannot be able to calculate the number of years that Jubilee has been in government, then our education system has a problem and it needs to be fixed. Because Jubilee has been in power since 2013. The handshake only happened in 2018. So can he account for the entire period that Kenyans gave them the mandate and not just pick out a small fraction of time that he wants to dwell on and say things that actually are sounding very disingenuous of him? And then secondly, we understand that we understand the premise within which Honorable Raila Odinga sits within the circles of Jubilee or around the president. It is nothing executive, and it has no power. He has no power. If he has no power, there's a time Raila spoke about an issue in the coast, and there was voices that he has no power to even give a directive or what. So if he has no power to give any directive, then he has no power to stop anyone from doing anything. So if the Jubilee government was serious, then it should have executed their mandate, whether they have Raila in their midst or not. You don't stop cooking for your family because there's a visitor. You don't stop bringing back your cows to the house because someone visited and that person was telling you so many stories, so that's why you stop doing everything in your home. You still fix your home, and that is what the Deputy President should tell us. But most importantly to discuss is, you cannot tell Kenyans that you will give them so many things and, I mean, generate an environment of pride around what you're going to do for people. Then you reduce those expectations dramatically to a wheelbarrow. You know, that one doesn't sit well, and he has to give us an explanation to that.
Isn't it then appalling that even after failure to straighten the country's economy and the begging bowl culture and set the country to the path of prosperity today, he is pinning his narrative on wheelbarrow and what they call now wheelbarrownomics? And can it then perhaps be a point to liberalize our economy, or is it more or less the sort of political games that they are playing on the minds of Kenyans?
Deputy President Ruto knows what he is doing. He knows since 2013 to date, Jubilee government has impoverished a great fraction of Kenyans. So when he says hustler, he knows they will respond. You know, you cannot call somebody that you're not sure is in the room. So you call somebody that is in the room and you know he will respond. So because their government has manufactured hustlers, that is the group that he wants to speak to. But then it is, my plea to the hustlers is, if this man could not give you these nice things from 2013 to date, when he's in the government, what makes you believe that he'll deliver these things to you when he's not sure of being president in 2022? because he's going into a contest.
Okay, I'll come to the opposition bit, and Wakili Philip Mwangale to you on this. Because on the other end, there are concerned Kenyans as regards the management of the economy, maladministration, and of course the underappreciation of the ballooning youth in the country and the unemployment that continues to soar high. But has the handshake more or less muzzled the opposition? In this case, did it chop off the revolutionary tongue of Odinga, who spoke about the government's undercoming or shortcomings when it comes to the management of the country since 2013?
I think the only thing that the handshake succeeded in doing was to silence the opposition. In this sense that I think you remember when sometime back in Narok, when the president was telling the opposition then that sisi tunakula nyama, nyinyi mezeni mate. Now it was their time to come to the table and start feeding from that table. And I think we know that it's good manners not to speak when you're feeding. So I think that is what the handshake managed to do. Because in as much as Alenga says that Raila Odinga did not have executive power, he had some influence. And because Uhuru wanted to appease the opposition side and their strongholds, whether it is Luo Nyanza or Coast region, where he was launching projects left, right, and center, even projects that he knew he was not going to sustain, he was on an appeasement spree. And so there were things that were done within government that were meant to appease the opposition. And in that scenario, they lost their voice. A few things, including, you've mentioned the economy, and economists will tell you that we are surviving by the mercies of God. The way this our economy is managed, it is just beyond appalling. Okay. So those things are things that we expected the opposition, the very abrasive opposition that we saw in 2017 and a little after that. Those were things that we expected them to speak about. But immediately they got into that appeasement environment, they lost the voice. They wanted to speak. You could sense that there are people who felt like they should speak about those things, but they could not, because you cannot bite off the hand that is feeding you. And I think we have suffered quite a lot in this last few years, just because we have not had a vibrant opposition. Okay, courtesy of the handshake. I can tell you that is for sure. Okay, Victor, there are concerns, according to political observers, of the growing unease in the ODM party, some calling for what they say is re-evaluation of the handshake between the president and the ODM party leader, and I'm talking about staunch Odinga supporters. And hearing a soundbite from the ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna, who says, in the event Baba akidanganywa, nani amesema Baba haezi danganya? I mean, talks about what has been termed as misguided bureaucratic decisions, isn't it? Failure on the part of the opposition and the government, as Kenyans are concerned about soaring food prices, house prices, unemployment, and unable to cater for the daily needs that they ought to be having. I mean, it's a failed political establishment, isn't it? It's a rotten political state. Now, just before I get to your question, I would like to tell Philip that opposition is not synonymous to Raila Odinga. I didn't even say Raila Odinga. He never mentioned the opposition. But then, in his talk, he alludes that it is the handshake that has killed the opposition. Now, I didn't say kill. I said silence. We very well know. It is only the word. We very well know that the authors of the handshake are President Uhuru Kenyatta and Prime Minister Raila Odinga. So then if it means that the opposition has been silenced, then it is only prudent to say that Uhuru was government and Raila Odinga was opposition, and that the handshake silenced him. Now, by the penance of the Constitution that you read daily, the leader of opposition in this country, though not defined in the Constitution, is the runner-up in any election. Now, the runner-up in the election that made Uhuru Kenyatta president is Ekuro Okot, who is not a party to the handshake. That is one. Two, after Raila Odinga joined Uhuru Kenyatta in a handshake, there was a self-proclamation from Musalia Mudavadi that he was the new opposition leader in this country. Has he played that role successfully? So what needs to come out is that opposition must not be led by Raila Odinga. That is one. But was led by Raila Odinga. Exactly, was.
Now, secondly, opposition is not about shouting in the corridors. And Raila Odinga has always made this clearly each and every single day, that I'm not in government. And I still criticize this government. However much, I now do it on the table because we are in a conversational era. So if there is need, I pick up my call and call the president and tell him, on this and this, you are wrong. And he said this several times. Now, on to whether the ODM is not comfortable with the handshake or not. I've also watched this on media. The media saying ODM has formed a task force to reevaluate the handshake. It was not part of the discussions that the Central Committee discussed. I don't know where the media got that from. Okay. Now, on to my thoughts.
Yes. Before you got your thoughts, you said that Ekuru Court came second in the elections of 26th October 2017 that the ODM, NASA coalition by extension, had boycotted. Therefore, between 2013 and 17, the ODM party leader came second in the 2013 elections, March 4th. And he faulted the government for underperformance, the NYS scandal, the subsequent suspension of 6 ministers from the Kenyatta government, including Charity Ngilu's and now Kitui governor. I mean, when you compare the Odinga between 2013 and 17, between 2018 and 2021, there seems to be stark contrast, isn't it? And you talked about the phone call bit, where you said it's now conversational. But he laid bare the failures of the government in public about the laptops and the resuscitation of the Kenyan economy. He ought to have called up, isn't it, the president, but he never did that.
There is a reason why he decided to do it. And the first time he did that was at Soweto, in Jacaranda grounds. Now, two things. The deputy president, who is the principal assistant to the president of the executive in this country, stood on a podium and said that the failures of government solely lie with His Excellency Raila Odinga. That is a lie, and we all know it. Now, the deputy president has been going around the country and telling each and every single man and woman in this country, youth, old men, that he will do well to them as president. Now, we have to ask him to tell the Kenyan people what he did to them as deputy president for the 7 years that he's been.
Okay, but then I'm just wondering, because the concern from the public and my position as journalist is not only to practice the profession, but also be the judge in some aspects, because I'm the link between the policymakers and the people on the ground. So when he says that the DP William Ruto has failed for 8 years, the deputy president is the principal assistant to the president. So is he saying the government has failed? The government of the president, that he is a handshake partner to?
He said that several times, and he has always maintained. In his last appearance on TV before today, when asked to rate the second term of the government, he gave them a 4 out of 10.
But I'll begin to ask you.
So why? Just before you ask me a question, and we really have to understand that even the president has admitted that the government has a problem. Speaking in his native Gikuyu language, he said that the government loses 2 billion shillings each and every single day. That was not Raila Odinga speaking. It was the president of the Republic of Kenya, in the era of the handshake, admitting that his government has a problem. So what we have to accept is that every single political player in this country, every single leader, is accepting that there is a problem. The deputy president is saying, we haven't delivered. The president is saying, there is a problem in my government. The prime minister is saying, there is a problem in the Jubilee administration. It means there is a problem.
Okay, I appreciate it. We all acknowledge, before I come to Alenga, and just seeking specificity, that the government has failed largely on the pledges that it made. And it was appalling the president acknowledged that the government loses 2 billion Kenya shillings daily. More or less, the DP William Ruto in an interview said that we are not running a casino, we are running a government. He was responding to the allegations on Aurora and Kimure dams. But then again, as all this develops and the avalanche of failures continue for the ruling Jubilee party, how does then the ODM party leader, in the event he contests for the presidency, distance himself from the baggage and the burden of the ruling Jubilee government?
Every single Kenyan knows he wasn't in government. He was trying to assist so that there is stability and there is peace for them to deliver.
And in the process of assisting, he has found out that there is failure And there's no point of
he knew
return.
about it.
Okay.
I'm finding it hard to follow Victor. On one hand, he's saying Raila Odinga was not in government. He didn't have any power. Now he's saying that he came in to assist. So now we have moved from where the handshake was to bring peace. Now he was assisting the government, which means then that he took over the role of the principal assistant. So when he is now blaming the government of Uhuru Kenyatta, he should carry the blame. And this is the problem I'm having with these politicians. Uhuru Kenyatta is saying we have a problem. Raila Odinga is saying these people have failed. Ruto is saying it is Raila Odinga who has caused us to fail. But no one is taking responsibility. And that is a problem, including the people who have the honors of taking responsibility, the president and the deputy president. They're not taking responsibility.
Okay. Alenga Trustad, I'm just wondering at the longevity and the lifeline of the handshake between the president and the ODM party leader, because there seems to be a mistrust that continues to creep in between the head of state and the Deputy President William Ruto's camp, and also the head of state and the ODM party leader's camp. And we had a similar coming together of the political establishment with the report by the Committee of Eminent Persons in 2006, a year after the disputed referendum that led to the formation of the ODM party. And 1 year later, we had the post-election skirmishes. So what assurances and the guarantees can the ODM party leader and the president put forth to Kenyans that the next electoral cycle will be peaceful and Kenya will not experience skirmishes?
I think there are some issues that were discussed, and I didn't have a voice in that, so I can just run along as I cycle to your question. First and foremost, to my colleague Wakili, you know, you cannot designate certain individuals to be your opposition, and then you say, well, we can't vote for them to be in government to give an alternative government, but we can have a bad government, but just have them on the side to keep this government on toes. So there's nowhere we signed that kind of agreement with Raila Odinga or Musalia Mudavadi or Ekuru Aukot that you guys will be fighting for us, the bad people will be voting. If we think these people are nice, then give them an opportunity to lead the country. And if you deny them an opportunity to lead the country, then don't blame them for the bad things that the bad people you elect do in power. And number two, I'm looking at the idea of how the longevity of the handshake. I ask myself, President Uhuru Kenyatta had a pact with DP that yangu kumi yako kumi, and that as we can see has already drowned in the waters and crumbled like a toast of bread on water. Then there is the handshake, and it has all the prospects. So he could support this person. Then other people think he could be fooling Raila Odinga, and he has a certain candidate in mind. So then I ask Uhuru Kenyatta, how many people can you fool? Because you see, then he has to stick somewhere.
The deputy president,
yeah. So
it's
not really Raila Odinga. It's not even Raila Odinga's business that Uhuru Kenyatta should be committed to the handshake, but it is Uhuru Kenyatta's burden to be committed to the handshake and to show that he actually stands for something. But you know, they say Awam does not dance. That's his own way of walking. So we can only watch and see. But then, if you look at the indictments that he has passed on his own government, you see what the deputy says, you see what the opposition says. It clearly shows that we have a government that needs to go. And if they go in 2022, the better for this country. But then, so for DP to try and package himself as a critic of the same government that he draws a salary from is really fooling us, and we must rise and say, if you are part of this formation all along and it has brought all this, and we cannot trust you with like if we now give you a new tenure, you'll be able to do things right. But then look at the people around him. Ask yourself, why is it that every person that has a bad record, especially a criminal record, finds a safe haven in Ruto's hands? How can you attract only bad people?
Jesus was attracting bad people.
How not? Can you admit, in the presence of the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, that you are banning cars in Nairobi?
Okay, and
he is silent about it.
Okay,
and you know, that is the kind of politics we are accepting in the country.
Okay.
To play devil's advocate, I think
Philip,
both of these sides have criminals in their backyard. It's just that William Ruto's side has criminals who have come out and they are not ashamed of their crimes.
But the
I think
acceptability levels on that side is really worrying.
Okay, but don't
I mean, these are people who are honest about their crimes. There are people on the other side.
Plead again.
You've just mentioned on the other side. They haven't come out. I won't mention their names lest they come after me because they're not unashamed as those on DP.
But the problem generally is that the president and the deputy president were accused of committing crimes against humanity by the ICC. And of course, the rot point of the political establishment to an extent is large. And to that point, then Alenga brings in the narrative that is likely to underpin our political formation and establishment going forward, the hustlers versus dynasty, and of course the likelihood it can have effect, the immediate effect on the political establishment, as is the case with what we're witnessing globally with the dynamism in the political establishment across the European continent and in the United States of America that is living in post-Trumpism, and also what we are witnessing in France with Marine Le Pen, Viktor Orban in Hungary, Nigel Farage in the UK, Matteo Salvini in Italy, and the AfB for Deutschland, which is the alternative for Germany in Germany, as Angela Merkel set to leave office. But coming to you before that, Wakili Philip Mwangala, as we finish up on that bit, I just want to inquire a bit about your thinking here and to where the soft landing spot will be for Kenyans in 2022, because they'll be electing the next crop of leaders, and that is at the ballot. But here we have an opposition that, as you have mentioned, silenced, a government that has largely underperformed since 2013 and failed on the pledges that it made. Do you think there can be a proper paradigm shift at the ballot for Kenyans to elect the proper leadership this country requires?
Between the importance of our institutions and the seat of our politicians, there ought to have been that middle ground that you're talking about. But I hazard a situation where 2022 will not be any different from what we have seen in the past. This new narrative that DP William Ruto is carrying, I have mentioned before that it is just pitting class arrogance against class privilege, and that will bring us to a war because class privilege has everything to lose. Class arrogance, those that are touted as hustlers have nothing to lose. And so when they go against class privilege, then we'll experience a battle that cannot be quelled. The unfortunate bit, again, with this narrative is, and all our political promises, is that we come up with a political narrative and then try and fix an economic model around it, try and fix a governance model around it. I will give an example of this hustler narrative. It began as fighting certain individuals and families that appear to have monopolized the economy of this country. But now it has, you now see economists, including somebody like David Ndii, trying to bring an economic model into this narrative. And that means that then we move away from what the real intention of that narrative was. That is a problem we are having. So if really we were to move forward, if really we were to make a change, then Kenyans should really have a radical mind shift and move away from this hustler narrative, move away from this deep state mentality and narrative that we're experiencing, and choose somebody new. In my opinion, if we maintain the people who have been in this government or have associated with this government, together with the ills that this government has exposed us to, then we will not change this country.
Okay, and here then, isn't it one that is of concern to you, Victor, Alenga, and I, and the Kenyans who are watching this broadcast, that the Deputy President William Ruto will be part of the next contestants or candidates who will be seeking the top office with, of course, a dotted economic record as the Deputy President, and will be seeking presidency on the pledge or on a springboard of liberalizing the country's economy when they formed the ruling Jubilee Party, pledging us that this is meant to end ethnic balkanization and, of course, conduct economic revolution. I mean, it's clearly a sort of an establishment that is ululating in agreement while sexing up a case for 2022 just for the case of a power capture, isn't it?
Sure, sure. And that is the unfortunate reality that we find ourselves in, that the people who appear to be our messiahs have a dagger behind their backs. They are smiling at us, shaking our hands, but the things they are planning for us are very dangerous. And and that is why I'll still insist that if we maintain the kind of political figures that we've had over the last few years, then we are not bound to change. And one of the things that I also find unfortunate is that we have been molested for a very long time as a citizenry, molested to submission, such that we cannot really think outside the pits and the holes that these politicians have dug for us. You have people in the hustler camp, for example, youth who are unemployed.
Okay.
I mean, their plight can be talked about in rallies, but the people who are talking about that plight do not mean the things that they are promising. So I'm saddened that I'm saying this, that 2022 will not be any different. I wish that it would be.
Okay.
I wish that we would change the kind of people that lead us. I wish that we would vote on principle, that we will vote in people who are, clean.
Okay.
Because we have those people in the political landscape. But it will not be any different because of the state that we are in, because these politicians have made sure that we cannot speak. And when we speak, our voices are drowned by their political rhetoric.
Okay, yes, Victor.
Three things.
Yes, go ahead, please. Briefly.
On
I need to come to Alenga also.
Now, number one, we have to recognize that institutional memory is very important. And feel we cannot send the whole administration away or home, remaining with no institutional memory.
What if people elect to overhaul the entire leadership?
I'm sure.
But what do you mean by institution?
Well, it's very possible in a democracy, isn't it?
I'm very sure
Yeah.
in this kind of democracy, I'm also very sure that such a thing will not happen.
Okay.
Based on history and what has happened. Now, secondly, on the hustler narrative that is being peddled around, if Ruto was very honest, then he should have stood in a rally and told Kenyans when he's sending Nick Ruto and June Ruto and the whole family from his homestead, because then they are dynasties. By his definition of a dynasty, his sons qualify to be one. His daughters qualify to be dynasties, because then he has created wealth and his sons have been born, enjoying the privileges that he has created for them. Now, on to what makes and constitutes the hustlers of this country. I would really wish to see serious economic empowerment in this country and economic freedom. Serious empowerment to the effect that a standard 8 today, who was promised a laptop in 2013, should not be going to high school when he has no luxury to study from home. We are experiencing a university that has opened, for example, and students are in school, have paid for accommodation, but are not attending classes. They are attending classes online. That is the disaster we have as a country. We are talking about a country where kids were at home for 9 months and did literally nothing. If proper empowerment and development in this country was properly done, then we would not be having such serious problems. So I would wish to see a country that is very serious on the job, leaders who are very keen and interested in the interest of this country. And I would go by the words of Senator Rengo yesterday, that number one, if you see someone who is so obsessed to getting power, turning into a demagogue, and would be a serious dictator in this country.
Okay. Did he mean DP William Ruto?
But he mentioned him.
Okay. And we have other quotes, of course, from the senior counsel and the CI County Senator, and later we'll be talking about that. But Alenga, when you talk about hustlers versus the dynasty, and here comes perhaps the formation of KPU following the fallout between Kenyatta Senior and Odinga Senior, and of course by Odinga Senior, who formed KPU, and he was deputized by Bildad Kagia, who comes from central Kenya. It seems that we started on that note of the class division in this country. And again, more than 55 years later, it is still dotting our political culture in the country. To what extent do you think it's likely to further poison the already poisoned political establishment?
Ayub, the hustler narrative was a fantastic idea, but the messengers were all wrong. They were not the right messengers. Because if you look at all those people propagating the hustler narrative, none of them qualifies to be called a hustler, even in the simplest terms of what a hustler could be. Those are well-to-do people. They have touched billions. They have estates. They have everything that the hustlers are yearning to ever have. But then projecting them to a space where they can be able now to look at other people as the cause of their poverty is where the hustler narrative failed completely, because they tried to make it look like those few people who have it are the cause of the poverty of the rest. And then today, because you work for a TV station, folks in your neighborhood believe you're a dynasty. Because now that is now how it has been diluted to. It's simply that person who at least has something that you don't have is a dynasty. So that narrative must be put to an end, and it is time that the president should take charge as the CEO of this country and summon his DP and put an end to that narrative, because he should, because it is within his power, it is within his mandate. Because the way the DP ravages across the country it's like he's carrying that utadu attitude, you know, and it has been very, very clear. Even when he spoke yesterday, ideally, the DP, if you are a communications expert, you will analyze the DP's speech yesterday. He was going to say, actually he meant, the connotative meaning of that speech was, don't ask me about the performance of Jubilee, ask Uhuru. But then he just had to put some sugar on the tail so that it doesn't really look like it's indicting him. But something we need to mention when we discuss these things is that I have had on this table, we have mentioned severally that the opposition died, the opposition was silenced. By the way, the opposition never died if we are referring to Raila. And in my opinion, he did a very special thing, that was dismantling and dismembering Jubilee Party. We know how much of pain we went through in this country when we were riding on that tyranny of numbers. Any law could be passed, no matter how retrogressive it was. Today, they can't do that. So on that principle, I say Raila Odinga has won 100%. And it is the opportunity of every opposition all over the world. Any small opportunity you get to penetrate into a government and destabilize them is a score.
Briefly, 30 seconds, Victor.
30 seconds. Now, there is this narrative that we've never had a hustler president in this country. Whatever hustler means. Mzee Jomo Kenyatta
was a water meter reader.
Exactly. Water meter reader.
And came back from London with no coin.
With no coin.
Employed by Mbio Koinange in his Gikuyu college.
Now taken to
in that
Lokitan,
narrative, you must remember that he looted.
Then he became president. Whether he looted or not, he was a son of nobody. Mr. Nyayo, former President Moi, was a nobody in this country,
and
a common teacher.
Whether
looted or not, he became president with no background.
So all these hustlers have ended up looting. Exactly. So we should be scared of hustlers.
We need to be scared of them. Now look at Kibaki. When Kibaki at some point, a story is told of him when he left school and was chased away because he could not raise school fees. Went to Biamanamba, then after that, got some small money, went back to school, and now graduated and became a Makerere graduate. Was brought back to this country by another hustler in Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, made to be a member of KANU, then vied and contested in Embakasi, later moved to Odhaya, and became president. So the only privileged president we've had is Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta.
We don't mind who becomes the president.
We should mind if this is the narrative that is going to sell.
I say so, because I never finished my statement.
Because we'll go back to the pre-colonial era and now start discussing, and all of us will be hustlers in this country.
History guides us.
We don't mind who becomes the president,
and it's unfortunate that we are now discussing those nitty-gritties.
We don't mind, Philip and Victor and Alinga, we don't mind who becomes the president. We're a democracy, and we have no regard for your political affiliation, your religious belonging, or ethnic makeup, as long as you abide by the principles of good governance and constitutionalism. That's important. And you mentioned about the former President Mwai Kibaki, admired by a lot, a man who never carried a wallet in a 10-year presidency, according to Ambassador Francis Muthaura, who served as his head of public service. When we come back from the break, we'll be getting to the front page of the People Daily. And Charles is telling me we need to pay some bills and come back after the break. Here we are. you. Welcome back to the broadcast. You are watching New Day Kenya. Good afternoon. It's 30 minutes past the hour, and many thanks for staying with us here on the broadcast. And we now flip to the front page of the People Daily, and here is as captured this morning: the president's grand plan to restore Mount Kenya, and this is part of the plan by the president to win back the hearts and minds of the House of Mumbai as he seeks to market the Building Bridges initiative. On Monday last week, he spoke to the mountain on his native Gikuyu language, where he called upon the people to rally behind the Building Bridges initiative. He said it wasn't a Raila Odinga project. It was meant for the economic improvement of the country, and that I am your son, but equally serve as the president, therefore a symbol of national unity. And that's why I rarely visit the area. He also talked about the opposition by members of parliament from the region who are elected on Jubilee ticket. And he said when the right time comes, politically, they are going to be sent into oblivion. And this is what the president said on Monday last week when he spoke to the Mount Kenya region.
We
should not be fooled by being told that the BBI belongs to Raila. If money goes to the counties, there is no way that Raila will benefit as a person. When I heard the Hasra Dynasty narrative, I came up with the rotational president idea. The idea hit them hard because you can see the kind of reactions it received in the last 1 week. I am comfortable wherever I am. I will not lament about the abuses, but will continue working for the people. What can affect me if someone tries to create conflict? That is when I will react and discover that a reined-on lion is not a cat.
And that is the president who on Monday spoke when he faced the Mount Kenya region. Wakili Philip Mwangale, he talked about the BBI in extensive nature and said it wasn't anyone's project because there was a tsunami of misinformation that the president was planning to counter. To what extent do you think that message will sink deep?
First, I must insist that it's unfortunate for me that the president only makes sense when he's speaking to his tribes people. When he's speaking to the whole nation, that hardly comes out. And when he wants to respond to what Kenyans are saying, or what Kenyans are questioning, he would face Mount Kenya, literally speaking. That is unfortunate for me. I think those things should have come out. He should have spoken to the whole country about those things. I mean, politically, it appears like a good thing. You are appeasing your backyard so that you have that kind of support. But I think he has lost that. He might have soothed a few souls in that interview and address, but largely he has lost his people. Two, there is increasingly, because of the propensity for deceit that our politicians have, and I think now the president in the last few years has gotten a proclivity towards that direction, we have alternative facts and manufactured facts.
Okay.
While the facts are that the handshake was not really a matter of conscience. It was not really because Uhuru, and I've mentioned this before, it was not really because Uhuru was pricked in his conscience. It was not because Raila Odinga he had sleepless nights about what was happening in this country. It was a money affair. And those are the facts. The manufactured facts are that these individuals were so concerned about the country, they were so concerned about the economy, and so they sat down together. At the background of the handshake, there are people who are moving pieces around. In the last few weeks, we've seen some of them come out to say that they were behind the handshake, they were moving those pieces. Money was involved. Money changed hands. These are things that they cannot admit. These are things that the president cannot admit. But those are facts. But because we are used to alternative facts, the alternative fact is that the BBI was to do with the economy. It had nothing to do with the economy. The Jubilee government wanted, calm. They wanted to operate without those demonstrations that we were seeing every Monday. They wanted to operate without the noises that the opposition was bringing to the fore. That is the truth. But because we are not used to the truth, we will take what the president is saying, that the BBI was not about the two of them. The BBI was about the nation.
Okay.
Incidentally, the BBI became about the country. That was good. But again, it was hijacked by the people who were behind it and the people who saw an opportunity to gain political mileage and capital out of it. If we had taken the opportunity, immediately the BBI became about the country.
Okay.
Then we should be at a place where we are not discussing these things that we're discussing, tribalism, hustlers, and dynasties and those things. We should be discussing about the moral health of this country. But we are not, because the BBI, which we were told was supposed to take us into that direction, was a vehicle that was heading in a different direction. It was hijacked by well-meaning people in this country to take it to a direction of prosperity. But because the drivers knew where the vehicle was headed, they took charge again, and now we know where we are headed.
Okay, then Victor, coming to you, we have seen the Deputy President William Ruto at the height of the coronavirus pandemic, when the curve was exponentially growing and there were lessened political activities. He more or less had gatherings either at his Asugoi home in the county of Uasin Gishu or at his current residence here in the county of Nairobi. And in a month, in 30 days' time, he invited 11 church delegations from central Kenya. Do you think that the president can counter his influence, and with time, will that erode?
You know, what prompted the Sermon on the Mountain was the epistolic letter written by Saint Irungu Kang'ata, delivered directly maybe from Saint William Ruto. I give them the name saints for their perceived innocence according to them. But then, as Raila Odinga metaphorically said, whom lima tutapanda. Now, what simply the president did in his sermon.
But Victor, as you go forward and giving us more deeper explanations, whom lima tutapanda is what the ODM party leader said when he hosted a delegation of the elderly from Mount Kenya region at the Two Rivers Mall here in the county of Nairobi. But this mlima appears to be steep, isn't it, when for 4 decades the Odinga political career was more or less painted with the broad brush by the Mount Kenya leaders, including the president, who even at some point termed him as the madman. Therefore, how can he undo that messaging that he has conveyed and decode it, that Raila Odinga can be a good person who can be trusted with the instruments of power to be the president of the Republic of Kenya?
Now, and that is why Irungu Kang'ata was a good author of a very good gospel book written in terms of a letter to the president. Now, on the sidelines, I was telling Philip that everyone who works for the deputy president thinks he is working for the deputy president, but in real sense, he's not working for him. Because then, as it's said in Swahili, Simba akilala usimwamshe. Irungu Kang'ata served as well. He woke us up. Now, the other time, the ODM party has been banished by the voters of the mountain, that we are the constant proprietors of violence in town. And it is so, I really want to use a good term, but it is so naive of Philip to say that to stop demonstrations on Monday and Thursday could not spur economic development in town, and that it did not serve to develop the economy when we had the handshake. It served. We know of businesses that operated normally when those perceived demonstrations and violent demonstrations by NASAs and ODM supporters were stopped. But then, it is the DP's supporters now telling us that no, it was not ODM doing that. We were the people sponsoring that with the so-called deep state and the likes he mentioned. It is very okay for them to speak like the way they are speaking right now. And we are happy that they are helping our cause to decode from the minds of the people who have believed that ODM has been violent, ODM has been doing wrong things, by them saying that, look here guys, it is not ODM who have been doing this. It is us who have been planning this, but then we blame them in doing this. It helps our cause, kupanda mlima. Now, kupanda mlima, in Raila's sense, did not mean that he only wanted to entice the people of Mount Kenya. But then in his large role of honor, it is only the place that has always disabused his message and called him the names that are not printable. But then, this time round, he's saying, in my train, because we have a big train and we are going, and we want to move as Kenyans to the promised land, let us have everyone on board. And that is why we brought the BBI. To cross the bridges and to cross to the other side, we have to build some good bridges. Okay,
but those bridges built by Mr. Odinga, before I come to Alenga, then the concern among members of the ODM party, your party, is that the president has been largely absent in terms of championing for the marketization of this document across the country, and to be specific in central Kenya. And this is causing an ease in the ODM party, isn't it?
Yeah. An ease according to who? Because as ODM, we are comfortable with the president and how he is operating.
So Odinga is enough to popularize the document across the country?
It is not Odinga enough. It is everyone involved. BBI is a Kenyan document. That is why we did public participation.
So there are many Kenyans who are equally opposed. So the proponents.
We are in the process of getting it to be a Kenyan document. Okay. I think we must be clear.
We are past 1 million.
Well, 1 million Kenyans are not representative of the whole population.
No, okay, that is what the law.
No, it is the law. Okay, and then we know that we are in a democratic environment.
Okay, that's what's needed.
We are confident that Kenyans will approve this thing. In almost 70% of Kenyans will approve, I can tell you.
Okay.
Your confidence is misplaced, but it's okay.
Okay. He seems to be enthusiastic and sanguine about the future. Going forward, though, we'll be looking forward to what the IEBC will be plowing the way as the county assemblies will be the next destination for the Building Bridges Bill. Now, Alenga, to you, politically, central Kenya has rebelled and over time rebelled, and their rebellion is economic rebellion. It's about their tea, pyrethrum, coffee, dairy farming, in what appears to be the backbone of their economy. But it appears that there is a deputy president on one end whose government never made attempts to uplift the economic well-being of the people of the central Kenya region, and wants to be the president on a trump card with a leverage that is likely to liberalize their economy even better. And they seem to be silent on a president who they seem has not done enough to uplift the status of their economy. I mean, going forward, we are likely to see more rebellion, isn't it? That will be economic rebellion, even against the deputy president, say that he assumes the office of the presidency come 2022.
You know, when I look at the perceived support that Deputy President has from Central, sometimes when I look at that, I just wish he can employ me as his advisor for one day. Then I can just advise him and tell him, Gikuyu support cannot be bought. It can only be rented. And they're just operating within that agreement for now. When the time comes, they make their own decisions, and those decisions are never given in rallies. They are never given in funerals. They are just given in an organic manner, and they follow that direction. So for Deputy President to look there, it's really a waste of time. And in the fullness of time, you'll see how things will roll out. But the most important thing we can look at the moment is, let's ask ourselves, this notion that the country has had about Central Kenya making the president is a fallacy that needs to be debunked, and thank God it's going to be debunked in 2022. Remember, the first multi-party election of 1992 and the one of 1997, we both had Gikuyu candidates that were trying to unseat President Moi, and they were unable because Moi had a strong grip on power. Where was that tyranny of numbers? Where was their numbers to make Moi Kibaki or Stanley Matiba the president? So that's a fallacy that was just cultivated after the 2007. And what happens in this country is that we never have free and fair elections. So a community cannot make someone president, and that lie is going to fall because it's standing on clay feet. It's going to fall in 2022. Now, the truth and the reality that Central Kenya needs to embrace at the moment is to start looking at Kenya as a country for all of us, to start having a nationalistic view about Kenya. Because that narrative that we are here, we are safe, this is the direction we're going, is not going to work in 2022. And whatever direction they take will determine their future in the politics of this country. So the decision is them to make, and not really us to make, because the whole country is gearing towards a presidency that can be able to unite the country. That is what we have been yearning for. That's what we've been crying for all the years. But then the deeper conversations that we should be having today and ahead of 2022 is asking ourselves, how have the people that we've given responsibility to lead this country performed? And if we are shopping for a president, are we likely to go back to the same places and look for a president, looking at the performance of the few sons or daughters from their side that we've given that responsibility? It is true that the leadership of this country has been exercised by three communities: the white colonialists, the Gikuyu, and the Kalenjin. That's a reality. That's something we must debate and we must talk about it. And the Kalenjin have, when they were in grip of power for this country for 24 years, they led to the worst decline of human rights, the decline of the economy, decline of political systems and democracy. It was a time we may never want to go back there. When the Gikuyus were in power, have been in power, we've witnessed the greatest plunder of this country that we will never ever witness again. So with this track record, are we really comfortable having a discussion around somebody from there also becoming president? Can't we try Taita? Can't we try, something else? But the problem is, even as my brother Philip was saying, we need now to walk out of there and look for a president that is able to do the job. But again, our politics has been so commercialized that it depends on how much you have that then puts you forward in terms of, can you run for presidency? Running for presidency in this country is the greatest, is like the most expensive venture in the whole world. I think our political campaigns are the most expensive in the whole world.
And a very expensive electoral process, for more than 50 billion Kenya shillings. Then in terms of undoing that and the damages done, as you have mentioned, because of the ethnicity, was the president right in your home county of Vihiga saying that it's time for another community?
The president was very, very right, because this is a conversation that we have feared to talk about, because we always want to look politically correct. You want people to say, okay, you do not harbor any tribe. But it's a reality. You cannot, even if it was a company, you can't be led by the same person or the same two group of people for 70 years and they're not the company is not productive, the company is no longer going concern, and you say, okay, because we just want to look nice and we want to look like we accommodate folks, let's continue like this. And that conversation coming from the president was the very best thing, because now he opened the veil. We can now discuss that in our social spaces. He literally opened the black box that many Kenyans normally talk about in their bedrooms. And we must not forget the premium that those communities have drawn from being at the helm of power. Not forgetting about all the happenstances since independence in 1963. Gentlemen, as we hurtle towards the last 7 minutes of the broadcast, here is what the cartoon edition of the People Daily captured for us this Monday. As Stano puts it, here's what's coming up. And it is the ODM party leader, Raila Odinga, saying, or asking the president, we should apply, then you become my running mate. What do you think? The president does not apparently respond, but he seems to be as laughable as he always is, the president we normally know. And there is the ODM, perhaps a member who is pinning the advertisement notice for the vacancy for the 2022 presidential flag bearer. Anyone interested in the vacancy seat to come forward. And before you do that, Victor is laughing. Before you do that, you will be depositing 1 million Kenya shillings non-refundable. And Victor, I'll come to you first on that. Your party seems to be setting the bar high.
No, but it has always been that amount. it has been that amount since 2005. Any member who wishes to vie for president within the party has always deposited 1 million with the party. And it is that way across democracies. There is always that commitment fee you pay for anything you want to do. To vie for an MCA position in this country, you and me know that there is something you pay. It cannot be the same for the person who pays to be governor or to be senator. So on the amount paid, I believe it is fair. To run to print the ballots, we'll have election clerks. You have to generate money from it. So to me, fair enough. Deposit some commitment fee, contest. Now on to the cartoon and what the cartoon is saying.
Yep.
I'm not so keen because I don't think the president would accept to be a running mate in 2022. So I think it is for laughs, and that's why I was laughing. It's very laughable that the president is put in a situation where he is a perceived running mate to His Excellency Raila Odinga.
Does it also perhaps interpret, or does it mean literally, the more or less, we talked about the handshake, that the president and the ODM party leader cannot be separated?
They can. You never know. They can. Politics is not predictable as you think, and politics is very, very hypothetical.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't write it in a book and say this is the route we are going to go with.
Okay.
Politics has to be empirical. You have to test it. It can be theoretically good, but not very empirical.
Or practically otherwise.
Yes. But then, it can be practical, but not theoretically good. So, the bromance between the president and His Excellency Raila Odinga, according to me, and what I've always wanted from the handshake, is a good society, just and truthful society from the handshake. I hope we achieve that through the plebiscite. The points we put forth will give the opportunity to my friend Philip to contest for presidency and win if the current reforms are changed, and then we have willing guys in office to implement them.
Okay.
Now, to those who think ODM is not democratic, we welcome you to contest. We welcome you to contest.
But one last question, Philip. Let me just finish up with him.
Yes
or no? Is Odinga on the ballot?
It is up to him to say that.
Yes or no?
I don't know.
Okay. Yes, okay, Philip. Go ahead.
You know, one of the things that people out there must remember, I think if you have 1 million shillings to spare, then I think you are sane enough to know that you must be an ODM life member for you to deposit those sums. I think it should have been easier for the ODM party to send text messages to their life members because they are accountable.
No.
Well, if they are not accountable, then you have the records. Just send text messages or emails to your life members and tell them this is what you need to do. And I read the sarcasm and satire in Stano's cartoon there, because it appears that we sort of know who is going to be the flag bearer of ODM, yet we have this announcement that is coming out. And I think that is what Stano was trying to to point out there, that yes, there's somebody hammering the poster there, but you know, there are individuals who seem to know what the game is within the background. But it's unfortunate that we are discussing issues of commitment fee. I think I've mentioned before that our political parties are SMEs. Some have graduated from being SMEs like ODM. I think they're now playing in the top tier league because these election processes are businesses. There are people who make money out of it. Well, Victor is saying they need money to print ballots and all those things. I think we all know that this money will not go to the exercise of you know, printing ballots and all those things. So our political parties and our elections in terms of spending and where election expenditure is from and goes to, we must really look at that. We have the laws and regulations in place, but we don't seem keen on following them.
Yes, Alenga, your final comments.
I think to begin with Stano's cartoon, I think this was a day when Stano didn't have any idea completely, and the editor was calling him, so he had to figure out something. It's completely ridiculous. It's not even making sense, sorry, to say the least. But again, when we come to the ODM issues and about the advertisement that went through, it is in their space to do anything they want, to be able to get a candidate for the elections. And what they pay, what they charge, that 1 million shillings is actually commensurate for someone who is running for presidency. Because if you do not have 1 million shillings to spare, then why are you even running for presidency in Kenya? So
very unfortunate.
No, but that is the truth. You
Well,
have to move around.
why can you? How
But
can you
how
say
would you
that?
move around
if you do not, if you do not have 1 million to
that's
spare,
the
then you can't be
reality.
president?
That's the reality of our politics.
Exactly, and I'm
It's
saying it's
about money,
unfortunate, right?
and it's about
But we agree
the,
it's
financial,
unfortunate.
the financial grip.
It's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, exactly.
Terribly so.
That is my point. That
No, you have to move around.
we can't make our election processes
even in civilized
business
democracies like the
enterprise.
US, Biden had a pay bill and people are collecting money.
Yeah, but why should we insist that we only have the wealthy running for office?
It is not the wealthy.
I mean, you can't.
You can do a fundraiser, get the 1 million paid.
Even
But we know the realities.
Different rates
we
for
know
MCA.
the realities on the ground that it's only the wealthy who can run for office
Yeah,
in this
indeed.
country.
That's
And
why
which
we
is
end up.
unfortunate.
with
But we're
the
all
budget.
agreeing that it's unfortunate.
That's not what it should be.
It's not unfortunate that you have
Okay.
made it a business enterprise. Okay.
And thank you. I had to give you a wiggle room to express your political mind, but nonetheless, though, your company was worthy and appreciated. Wakili Philip Mwangale, Advocate of the High Court, thank you so much. Your time is always a pleasure. I cherish that. And that of course, Victor Manende, thank you so much. Anthropologist, governance, political commentator, and Alenga Trustad, who equally commented on social political development. And of course, it's all about having an objective discussion with the, of course, intention of changing the minds of Kenyans to make proper decisions when the next time comes in the making of their governance model and the people in authority.
I think that was a very heated conversation, and what an interesting twist to the state of politics, especially ahead of the 2022 general elections. And as Philip put it, all that's wait to do is see if Kenyans are actually going to be voting on merit this time. So, my name is Aziza Hashim.
And I am Ayub Abdikadir Abdi. Lucy Riley is up next with the lunchtime news, and we'll see you tomorrow for the same show. Bye for now.